Hello, everyone, and welcome to Leap Like Me. I'm Lisa Hawashi. In the last few episodes with me, we've talked about the importance of clarifying at the outset of a career pivot what kind of job is right for you, how important it is for you to know what you want and for you to clarify your bigger vision for your career and life. Today, we are switching to the big question of how to actually go out and get that new job in a new role or field. And I'll share what 3 tactics are going to help you land that job, when they work best and when they don't. If you're trying to make a job change without talking to at least 5 to 10 other people, you're underutilizing your network. Networking works when you have a plan and stay organized with who you're talking to and what you learn from them and what you'll do next. It works when you stay consistent and make it a practice. Set a goal of talking to at least one person a week about your career plans. Welcome to Leap Like Me. If you can't shake the feeling that you're not on the right path, if you feel called to change things up but don't know how to begin, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Lisa Hawashi, and my specialty is coaching people at those crossroads moments in life when you feel called to take a new direction. Sometimes that means taking a leap. I want to share practical advice and inspiration for your leaps and how to keep going after your dreams in a challenging world. This season, we're talking all about career leaps. Come along for the conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leap Like Me. I'm Lisa Hawashi. In the last few episodes with me, we've talked about the importance of clarifying what kind of job is right for you at the outset of a career change. How important it is for you to know what you want and what your bigger vision is for your career and life. On today's show, we are switching to the big question of how to actually go out and get that new job when you're ready to make a career pivot. I'm sharing 3 tactics that will help you land your next job in a new role or field. And I'll share when they work best and when they don't. First, we need to talk about the fact that when you are making a career pivot, there are a few things that are potentially working against you, and it's good to be aware of them. First, your experience may not exactly align with the new role that you want to get. You might have transferable skills and experience, but in every role and in every field and industry, the jargon and the language can be a bit different. You have to be able to translate your experience into this new language. Second, you may lack some experience or skills that you actually need to go out and get. And finally, you might be feeling a bit out of your comfort zone, or even a lot out of your comfort zone when you're making a career pivot. So you also need to make sure, as you go out there to look for that job, that you're not always falling back on job search tactics that feel safe and easy, like LinkedIn Easy Apply, versus job tactics that are actually going to get you your next job, like networking. When you're making a career pivot, the more traditional ways of getting a job may not work as well. For example, you might have a harder time getting in through a typical job opening at a company. I call this getting in the front door of a company. You see a job opening, you apply with a cover letter and a resume. The thing is that many companies use applicant tracking systems or talent management systems to manage all of the applicants that are coming through. And these databases are often set up to look for specific keywords and types of backgrounds for advertised positions, which means that good candidates like you who are switching careers could potentially slip through the cracks, especially if you haven't translated your experience with all those specific keywords for that role. By the way, these systems are also why you need a well-written resume. If a resume looks too different or is too complex, sometimes these tracking systems can't scan it or interpret it properly. Another typical way of getting a job that likely won't work when making a career pivot is getting noticed by a recruiter. As we heard from Carolina Cobo in episode 21, recruiters often search for candidates on LinkedIn. So if you've worked in communications for 15 years and now you want to pivot to leadership development, recruiters will likely continue to contact you about communications roles because those 5 communication jobs that you have on your LinkedIn profile keep turning up in their searches. All right. So I've just told you that applying for job openings or hoping to hear from recruiters might not be your best tactics when you're career pivoting. I'm starting at this place because it's important to know that making a career change, although it has many benefits and lots of payoffs in the future, it's often a big investment and a process of many months and sometimes even years. It takes a lot of time and energy. This is why you want to be strategic and use the right job search tactics. You can go the route of searching job boards and sending out multiple applications each week, but it's not likely the best use of your time. And sending out endless resumes and cover letters is time consuming and can be really disheartening. So be strategic and also flexible and creative. Now, the applying for job openings tactic can work if you have a really well-written resume and cover letter that demonstrate you're an excellent fit for the position, or if it catches the right person's attention. So if you do use this tactic or plan to rely on it, here are some tips. First, you'll need to do your research upfront on how to write a good resume and a cover letter, and really dedicate some actual time to researching this. There are so many good resources out there online, and there's really no excuse for muddling around in this because there are just so many good resources out there. And you can also hire someone for, $100 to $200 to help you write your resume so you can get, really nail this down. It is important. I think sometimes we can kind of get into the mindset of being a little bit cheap when we're thinking about, what kind of resources do we want to put into finding our next job? But remember, by hiring help and really figuring out how to do this well can really have a big payoff in terms of your future happiness and also like how much you earn next with your next salary. It can really have some potentially really big returns on your investment. The other thing that you can do is really start to learn how to read position descriptions. It can actually be pretty tricky sometimes to figure out what a position description is trying to say. But when you really spend time trying to understand what they are looking for before you apply, it really helps you to tailor your application. I have been both a hiring manager and I've also been on many interview panels. And when we were doing the selection, it's like the number one thing that we wanted was someone who showed that they got what the job was. If I see a candidate who clearly knows what this job is all about, obviously they're going to rise to the top of the list because I want someone who gets the job. I don't want to have to, explain or wonder if they're a good match or not. I want to really know that from what they have presented, in their application materials. Also, before you apply to an opening, check to see if you have any connections to the company or to the hiring manager so you can find out a little bit more about the position potentially and what they're looking for, and then tailor your application that much more. Plus, if you know someone who can help make sure that your application gets noticed in that company, of course, that's going to be really helpful. Now, whenever I have a client who is starting to get frustrated by the feeling that she's just sending applications out into the void, it always nearly means that it's time to switch tactics. So it can be time to send out less cold applications and start networking more. It can be time to attend some professional events and conferences. It can be time to reach out to more contacts, to take on related volunteer opportunities, and really just to do anything to get more active in the field or the role they want to transition to. It's time to kind of shake things up and try something new. And especially if it's starting to put you in a bad headspace, your energy is definitely an important part of this. Now, If you have been sending out applications and getting discouraged, or if you haven't started yet, but that was the main tactic you thought you would use, let's talk about the other tactics that you have when you make a career pivot. I have 3 of them for you. And for each one, I'm going to tell you when they work and when they don't. Plus, I want you to know that for each of these tactics, they've come up again and again in our interviews with guests on the show. So I will also be highlighting which of our Career Leap guests have used each one and when. Here's tactic number 1 for how to get into your next job when you're making a career pivot. First, you want to make sure that you have the right training, education, and experience to make the pivot and fill the gaps if needed. So here you are, you know what you want to do next, and now you need to figure out which gaps you might have that you need to fill to get where you want to go. Do you need to invest time and money in additional learning? The majority of folks who we've had on the podcast this season have answered yes to this question. And master's programs have been a common theme among our guests, although not all of them have done that. Jennifer Dillon, she got her master's in real estate development. Sika Stanton is getting her MFA in cinematography. And Jack Mingle got his master's in data science, although he did say that the experience he got online outside of school was more helpful for him on the job. Carolina Cobo, who wanted to become a software developer, she did not do a master's. She started with a low-price boot camp, and then she went on to a coding institute. Everyone figured out what their gaps were and if they could be filled by investing time and money in additional learning. Now, I have a few warnings about this tactic. It works when you can swing the time and financial investment and you're sure that it's going to get you where you want to go. The worst thing is to invest big time and money into something that doesn't have a good return on the investment. So be careful, and especially watch out for confirmation bias as you're making a decision about this. Confirmation bias is a tendency to search for, interpret, or favor information in a way that supports what we already believe. I learned about confirmation bias in decision-making from the book Decisive by Dan and Chip Heath. Here's how it shows up in decision-making. One of my last purchases on Amazon was a new car seat for my daughter. I already knew the brand I wanted, and so when I found the model that I liked and it was the right price, I was pretty much ready to buy it without much more research. Now, if I just read all the 5-star reviews, I'd just be adding to my confirmation bias that this was a great car seat and the right one for us. But if I read all the 1-star reviews, which sometimes I have to force myself to do, I would be countering my confirmation bias. I'd hear from the parents who thought the car seat was too hard to install, or it was too big and you couldn't lean the passenger seat back anymore because it was too big. Or I would find out if their kid found it super uncomfortable on long car rides. But ultimately, reading the 1-star reviews is going to help me make a better decision. I've definitely read 1-star reviews and then completely abandoned a product for another. And I bet you have too. So if you're considering a very expensive or very time-consuming investment in your career change, like a master's program at a private university, try to find evidence for why you shouldn't do it. Is anyone out there saying that it's a waste of money? Talk to them. Has anyone made it into the role that you want without a master's? How did they do it? Consider the other options. Finally, investing in your experience and skills and education will move you closer to your next role, but it won't necessarily get you the job. So as you move ahead with this tactic, you also need to have the next 2 tactics in play as well. Tactic number 2 for how to get your next job when you're making a career pivot. Scan for internal opportunities. So once you know the pivot that you want to take, ask yourself, is it possible that you could get partway or most of the way there at your current company? With this tactic, you're leveraging your reputation and connections at your current organization to pivot into a new role or area of work. maybe just for short term. This works when you have a solid enough reputation and years of experience to leverage. Your company is big and varied enough to actually have the type of role that you want to have, and you're okay with staying with your current company. Obviously, this tactic doesn't work if you're not currently employed, or if the role that you want isn't possible or conceivable at your current company, or if you want to totally change fields, or if you are totally done with your company or field, if it's toxic or terrible and you just cannot work another day there. And this is a real thing, and it's important to respect those boundaries if you have them, if they're coming up for you, if that's where you're at. So to share an example of someone who used this internal opportunities tactic, that was Jack Mengel in episode 25, who was working as a project manager. That's all he had on his resume when he decided that he wanted to become a data scientist. So outside of work, he started studying for his master's in data science and building his skills through online resources and communities. And when he felt like he had just enough experience under his belt, Jack reached out to a colleague at work who was in data science and was willing to give him some work in this area, as Jack said, under the table. Then, once Jack gained enough on-the-job experience and completed an important project with this colleague, he was able to then negotiate a title change, adding data science to his title. When you go back and listen to that episode, you'll hear about how both getting that title and the job experience enabled Jack to complete his career leap and get his first job working full-time at a different company as a full-time data scientist. Tactic number 3 for how to get into your next job when you're making a career pivot: networking. Okay, what's networking? I think a lot of people are intimidated by networking, but really it's just conversations with people you might learn from or who might be able to lend a helping hand. It's building relationships in what's hopefully a mutual or generous pay it forward kind of way. It's putting yourself out there, being open, and learning from others. And what I see over and over again is that people who want to make a career change generally underutilize their network. Sometimes maybe they even undervalue their network. But today, some estimates suggest that up to 70% of all jobs are not published on publicly available job search sites. That's 70%. And research has long shown that anywhere from half to upwards of 80% of jobs are filled through networking. All right. These are some pretty impressive statistics here. If you went to college, if you have more than 10 years of job experience, you probably have a pretty awesome network. If you're trying to make a job change without talking to at least 5 to 10 other people, you're underutilizing your network. Networking works when you have a plan and stay organized with who you're talking to and what you learn from them and what you'll do next. It works when you stay consistent and make it a practice. Set a goal of talking to at least one person a week about your career plans. It works when you dive into conversations, even when you're not 100% polished, but you keep going and keep refining until you are more polished. It works when you stay on top of follow-up and thank you notes. It works when you can monitor your energy and stay in a positive headspace that is open and engaged and feeling good. It does not work when you're inconsistent, when you do too little of it, or you don't do enough prep or follow-up, when you talk yourself out of it, when you convince yourself you don't have a big enough network. A great example of using networking effectively for a career change was Jennifer Dillon, who shared her story in episode 19. Jennifer was doing her master's program in real estate development, and she also needed to get her first job in that field. Previously, she was a creative director for a global nonprofit, so she was totally switching industries. She told us about how she used networking to learn more about her new field. She shared how after a while, she started literally mapping out on her wall the different development projects that she was learning about in her home city of Portland, Oregon. She was using the networking conversations to learn about how everything connected and where she also might fit in. She talked about how rusty she felt at first in these conversations, but then figured out how to better navigate them and use them to keep going. And then she finally got an introduction through a mutual friend that led to her first job in the field. It was entry level, and she laughed when she told us about how she had to wear a hard hat and was working out of a trailer, but it was a job. And it was networking that got her it. Jack Mengel also talks about how he used networking to figure out his new field of data science, how it worked. And he also said he learned about the things that helped him on the way that he said he never would have learned through YouTube or other online searches. Here's the thing about talking with other people. You can shortcut so much because people know so much and they can customize what they know to your exact situation. You can go so much further in one conversation, not only in pure knowledge, but also through the support that they can give you through validation of your ideas, affirmations, encouragement. And this is also why coaches are a wonderful source of support too, because they've got this mix of knowledge and encouragement and just can really help show you possibilities and give you ideas for what you might be able to do next. Also, when you approach others with respect for their time, with some good focused questions, and with appreciation, they are often very happy to help. Many of us like to be helpful. My father always says that, people love to talk about themselves. So that's always there. And just don't forget the thank you note when someone has taken the time. And share good news with them later when you get the job or make a breakthrough. And looping back is always appreciated. And also make time to do it for other people when you're asked. All right. So today we talked about the tactics that are most going to help you when you're looking to pivot in your career. We talked about the moments when these tactics work and when they might not. I also gave you lots of examples from real stories from the guests that we've had on the show so far. So go back and listen to those episodes if you haven't already, or if you want to re-listen to them. These tactics are always mix and match. A consistent theme that we've heard from guests on this show is about staying flexible and responsive every step of the way. If one tactic isn't working, go back and try something else. Tinker. Keep your focus. Take breaks when you need to recoup your energy and get into a better headspace. And most important, keep reaching out. Don't underestimate the power of staying connected with others, of sharing the problems that you're trying to solve and getting their ideas for them. There is a lot of support out there for you, including from me. I'm sending it out to you right now. And if you could ever use some sustained and knowledgeable support for your career or life changes, just reach out. Thank you for listening to this episode of Leap Like Me. If you're enjoying the show and getting lots of value from it, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes and leave us a 5-star review. Also, do you know anyone who's considering a career change who might appreciate the ideas and inspiration from this show? Please let them know about it. We want as many people as possible to benefit from these shows. And know that if you do share it, you can always tag me at Lisa Hawashi on Instagram or LinkedIn. By the way, if you haven't already connected with me in those two places, I'm also sharing tons of good stuff there. Speaking of sharing, I want you to know about my new free change planner. This planner is for you if you'd like to make a significant change in life or work, but you're feeling kind of stuck. My change planner will help you get the clarity you need to take your next steps. Inside, I'll show you how to understand what you really want and why it's important, how to face your fears constructively so they don't hold you back. And this planner also has a scenario cruncher. I help you get all possible scenarios out of your head so you can find the right one for you. It's my favorite part. And having used it with many clients, I've seen how powerful it is. I know you're going to get many great insights out of this free planner. So head on over to leaplikeme.com to get your copy. That's a wrap for this episode. Thanks for listening, for sharing the show, and being part of this journey with me. Take good care.